Zach Distel, curator for the Sons of the American Revolution, and I'm here to answer your Friday FAQ, how do I care for historic objects at home? Well, to begin with, the first thing you want to consider is some general handling instructions. You always want to have clean hands, and whenever possible, you want to handle your objects over a table. And you want to try to handle them as little as possible. This will mitigate any risk or danger that you might pose walking around, handing around, or generally sharing your objects. So the first type of object we're going to consider are 3D objects. So this is one example of a glass bottle. But when you look at your objects, you need to examine it and think about what types of materials are this object's made out of. Some objects might be made out of wood and metal, or they may be made out of wood and glass. Think about the different materials and the different needs of those materials. So for this example, we just have a glass bottle and we want to put it in storage. So to store it, we have here some polyethylene foam. This is what we like to use in museums, but if you don't want to use something as robust as this, you can also get some archival bubble wrap or maybe even some non-acid tissue paper. To store it, you want to wrap the bottle. You want to make it not too tight, but you want to make it pretty tight so it's not going to move around. And this is one example of an archival box that we use. At the end of the video, we'll show you some places where you can get boxes like this on your own. But this is an archival grade acid-free box. And we chose this box for this object. This object will fit in here nicely and snugly. You can see, give it a little shake test, it doesn't move around. And that's how you want your 3D objects to be housed. They don't shake around and they have complete protection. That's ready to go in your closet. Next we're going to talk about documents. So once again with documents, you want to make sure you have clean hands, and it's very important that if you have housing that isn't big enough, don't fold your documents to make them fit. You might just need to get something a little bit bigger. But in general, what you want to do with a document is you want to handle it very delicately and once again as little as possible. And I have here a Mylar sleeve. This is actually made out of some of the same materials the tissue or the foam is made out of that we just showed you. But what this will do is protect the object. And now even after you have this inside of your sleeve, you want this to be exposed to light as little as possible. So to help with that, we're then going to put it into an archival folder. This folder is made out of an acid-free material, and again, we'll show you at the end of the video some places that you can get supplies like this. Now this, you want to store it similar to the box that we just had for the 3D object. You're going to try to store it standing up if possible. You don't want to stack documents on top of each other this way because you don't want to crush them. This, standing up, is ready to go into storage. A third type of object you might have is a photograph. Again, make sure your hands are clean, and whenever handling it, you want to try to handle it by the edges. Don't ever touch the photograph surface if you don't absolutely have to. And if you do, it might just be to get some dirt or dust off, and even in that case, you might want to use a light bristle brush or perhaps a clean cloth. But also with with photographs, just like documents, you want to expose them to light as little as possible, and you actually want to store your photographs in a very similar way that you do your documents. Again, we have a Mylar sleeve. Place your photograph in the sleeve, and then to give it further protection and to keep it out of the light, put it into your folder. So once again, this is ready for storage. Now, two things you can do to really help preserve your documents and photographs is to digitize them either with a camera or a scanner. This way you'll have a duplicate copy, or you even have an extra copy in case the original is lost. And if you have a digital copy, this means if you want to share it with family or loved ones, you can just pull it up on your computer or a tablet and you don't have to get the actual object out of storage. Speaking of storage, there are certain places in your house that you're going to want to store your historic objects. The ideal environment, and that we actually use here at SAR, is 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 50% relative humidity. Now this is the ideal standard, and what you're actually going for is to just maintain those as much as possible and to maintain a stable environment. Even if you can't maintain those numbers, keeping your environment as stable as possible should be your goal. Now to do this, you probably do not want to store your objects in a basement or an attic. These typically have some of the highest temperature and humidity fluctuations in your home. So you may want to consider an interior closet or a northerly facing room, which will get very little sunlight, on the main floor of your home. Now you need to consider security as well as the environmental concerns, so take both of those into consideration when you pick somewhere to store your historic objects. And if you do decide to use an interior closet, make sure you don't put things in there too tightly, because you do want air to be able to move around a little bit, because if the air is too stagnant, you might bring the risk of mold or other dangers to your objects. So thank you for tuning in for this FAQ, and we'll see you next time.